Welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me, as always, it's Ben Slinger.
I thought you'd forgotten my name there with that pause. Yes, Hello, I'm here.
Ben Slinger, who is now 40 years old.
Oh, God, don't tell them that. No, it's
hey,
fine.
I'm 40 and a half.
That's true. We're both 40 now. We're both, I guess we're probably technically adults in, our late 20s, if you go by the sort of
mentally
thing.
No, I'm still a teenager.
Even at 40, it's like, nah. No,
the only difference between Ben and I turning 40 is I've got a lot more grey in the beard, and Ben has no grey in the beard, and I'm starting to wonder, I'm looking at him right now, and all I see is just black everywhere. Nah, that's black,
There's
dude.
one.
There's one. Oh,
grey.
look. Everything underneath the bloody chin is grey with me.
It's true. Not to go too far off tangent, but I came across photos of you, Trevor, from 10 years ago.
You don't ever go that far back. Have a look at the photos that we took for Bitstorm and Two Sweary Dads, and it's all black, or at least auburn and got a lot of brown in there.
There you go. So if you want to know what we're talking about, go to the artwork for Bitstorm and or Two Sweary Dads and look at Trevor and then imagine him more grey.
And then look at Ben and imagine him with longer hair, because he's got rather short hair in that photo.
It's only down to my chin.
It's about where my hair is now.
Now it's down past my nipples.
Yeah, that happens.
All right. That was more preamble than we usually do. So let's get into the show.
And I'll probably cut most of it. Yay.
Whatever.
All right, I don't give a shit.
It's just it's one of those nights where just whatever, fuck it. We're 221 episodes in, so we do what we want. We're going to jump back to using what3words.com tonight for our random words to create some game designs. You know the drill if you're here by now. If it is your first time, I just said what we're going to do, so you'll find out soon enough.
Mm-hmm. Ben, what 3 words?
Retail brainwashed duvets.
Ooh, I'm picturing that this is set in a Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah.
And the Beyond is actually like a Lovecraftian horror.
It makes a lot of sense.
I mean, we're here in Australia, and for those American listeners and those that are listening throughout the world, we don't have Bed Bath & Beyond here, but we're just imagining that kind of like the old Family Guy joke of, Beyond being like a nothing space sort of thing.
Funny, I actually go to the movie Click.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that, and that is an awesome film.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we'll take the cultural osmosis that we've gained and use Bed Bath & Beyond, since it does fit well into that. I do like that idea of the Beyond being some sort of... brainwashing made me think of... some sort of body snatching situation, or
it's every time that you come out of the Beyond section that you've just forgotten about what happened in the Beyond, and now you're just all happy again. But the second that you sort of walk into the Beyond again, you realize, oh my God, every single time I walk into this place, I forget, but I remember as soon as I see it again.
I'm picturing this as like a first person walking simulator sort of thing a bit, or at least just like a slow paced first person, adventure where, you start off and you've just come out of Beyond.
Yes.
And you're talking to the other staff, and
your main section is bed because of duvets.
Yeah.
You don't really talk to the bath people because, they're all snobby and shit.
They're a bit weird. Yeah, they're a bit cliquey.
Yeah. But of course, everyone talks about Beyond, that anytime they come out of there, they just can't remember what happened in that room.
Yeah, there's this weird kind of aura from there where, I think you do come out and someone asks you, like, oh, were you just in Beyond? Like, what were you doing in there? And you can't remember. But
you can't remember because that's where the game is opened.
But then halfway through that conversation, they forget that they even asked you and that you were even in there.
Yeah.
And you sort of start to realize, oh, there's something weird about Beyond.
Yeah. I'm imagining that something that you pick up throughout the game means that from now on you remember everything that, like, your character remembers everything whenever they enter Beyond. And at first it's kind of normal, but you kind of get a little bit of, just a little bit of freaky shit happening.
So we don't have to do any sort of, like, mind stuff. Like, so I guess
mind fuckery.
Well, just so it's clear that the player, because obviously the player is not going to forget things. So to make it that the character maybe isn't, maybe you come out of Beyond with, like, a ring on or something that, as the player, you don't immediately realize is different. But I don't know, you go home that night and your partner is like, hey, why are you wearing that ring? Or something.
I don't know, but I've seen the most fucked up things.
Well, I think you're not, at this point, you're not necessarily remembering what was in there.
Yeah.
Like, you were given that ring on the way out or something, and it's now, there's, you sort of.
Or it's the first thing that you find, and it's just on the floor, just outside the Beyond.
Or it's in your hand or something.
Sort of,
like, you come out and it's in your hand, you haven't put it on yet. And as sort of, again, from that, I guess the closest touchstone is maybe Firewatch or something, where you've got a lot of visuals around, like, just some really nice animations from the first person, so you see different stuff happening. And so, yeah, I think, the very first scene is essentially, fade up from black, and you're like, you look around a bit, and then the character looks down at their hand and realizes they're holding it, and then maybe puts the ring on. And then there's, like, a conversation with someone who is out there, and that's when you start realizing, oh, like, nobody remembers what's happening in here. But it's not until you get called back in there again that maybe you find out and realize, oh, it's the ring that's letting me remember this.
So you said first person. Are you happy with first person, or would you like to go VR?
I think first person, just so you do have that.
You can take control
the
and
ability
actually
of taking control of the hands and the camera. That's more just the vibe I'm going for. I'm feeling there.
Cool.
Which, is
I do like the idea of, like, you're walking to Beyond and it looks kind of normal until you turn your head and you see, sort of like the tentacle, like Cthulhu-esque creature reaching in from the corner and just sort of sneaks back as.
I mean, you can still do that in first person. As you look around, I do like you walk into Beyond and you turn all the way around, and, like, the door is mostly, like, the door is still there, but nothing else is there, and you just see this huge abyss with tentacles and things. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So, what's the kind of arc then? Like, what is this beast or these people that are in Beyond? What do they want? And how does your character come into play?
The reason why you're working there is because, like, you needed some extra cash after, like, COVID or something like that. So something like that. So you've gone back into retail. As you go through, you start to build up a friendship with someone, and then they have a shift in Beyond one day, and they never return, and no one remembers who they are.
Okay, I like that.
But because you've got the ring on, you remember who they are. And you start realizing that any time that someone sort of gets written up for something bad that they did, they get moved into Beyond, and then no one remembers them anymore. Like,
yep, that's cool. I like that, because then that sort of gives, like, the goal for the first part of the game is finding out where your friend went, essentially, and that leads up to your first, as the player, entrance into Beyond.
But it also gives you the idea of, hang on, does upper management know about this? Like, and is this a corporate-wide thing of, the Bed Bath & Beyond sort of thing? Like,
every Beyond is a different, like, tentacle beast.
Or because we're talking otherworldly and all this sort of stuff, there's no reason why all the beyonds can't actually be a singular place.
Okay.
And you just, when you happen to enter, you happen to, and when you exit, you're exiting into your shop, but effectively there is only one beyond. Mm-hmm. It's just, in an extra dimensional space. So
I like that. And so essentially the corporation is like feeding and serving this god beast.
But it also gives you a way of sneaking something into another Bed Bath & Beyond that you actually need to go into, because you can leave something in Beyond, leave your own place, go off to this other Bed Bath & Beyond, enter Beyond and pick up the stuff and exit again. Like, you sort of, you're able to teleport
I also
something.
Like the idea that it's not just the Beyonds in Bed Bath & Beyonds, but there are other, like, strange places that also lead there. Like, I don't know, the filthy bathroom that no one goes into at the back of the nearby bar or something, just so you're not having to constantly be in just near identical retail stores.
Bed Bath Beyond and what the fuck?
What I'm kind of thinking is that your player was specifically given this ring so that you could serve the god beast better. They need someone now on the outside who, essentially you've been promoted.
You've been promoted, and they basically, this is your sort of test to see whether you're management material.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea that you're, like, you talk to the assistant manager, and like they seem to have forgotten the person as well. Like, they don't know what's going on there, but then, like, you get a visit from the manager and you notice that they're wearing the same ring. Yeah. And they kind of give you a look, and they
give you a look at first, and then later on, you sort of, see, he goes, huh? He's pointing at the ring.
Very obvious. Waving it in your face for those gamers who are a bit less observant.
I'm now picturing, like, you're having a talk, and you see the subtitles down the bottom, and they're gradually saying something about ring, and then it's underlined and it's bolded and it's like throbbing and all this sort of stuff. It's like, don't forget this.
It's like click in on L3 and it just like zooms, smash zoom into the ring with it highlighted.
Instantly, like, oh my God. And it takes a little bit to focus in. It's like, sorry.
You hear the cameraman say sorry. Which in a first person game makes even less sense.
This is just the sort of mood that I'm in tonight.
Now I'm just picturing a first person game where you're moving around, but then when there's a light behind you, you see your shadow, and you just see this shadow of like a crane,
a head with a camera on the front of it.
I'm thinking literally like a person, this huge rig, this camera rig, with like arms and legs dangling off it. You see a mirror, and it's just this crane, and somehow they're like, I don't know, removing the scenery behind you to fit in this crane every time you turn around, like it's some fucking movie set.
You turn around too quickly and you see all these production assistants sort of running out of the scene.
That would be a great, like, Naked Gun style game where there's actually like a whole mechanic built in. It's not even just one scene. It's literally, if you swing the mouse around too quickly, they haven't fully built the set. And you see like a essentially like time lapse of the set being built, the level.
Oh my God.
As you move around.
And it only happens kind of like 1 in 100 times that you turn around. Like,
yeah, you wouldn't want it to be constant, obviously.
And it's sort of like, I can't remember which Call of Duty game it was, but occasionally when you were reloaded in one of the Call of Duty games, like, you take out the thing and then a hand would come in and hand you another ammo.
I think both Call of Duty and the Battlefield series have done some of those funny reload animations now that they throw in.
Yeah. And it's like 1 in 500 chance of it happening or something like that. And it's just like, you see the people's reaction when they weren't expecting it. It's like, oh my God, what just happened? Like, you just see this arm come in and go,
just hand you the clip. I like that. And I guess I don't know, do you eventually join, or is this a choice that you get to make at the end of, like, do you join corporate and continue?
I think this is a choice that you get to make at the end of Act 2. And so basically you've got two different Act 3s. One is sort of a shorter one of you've joined the company and now you're sending, poor workers into Beyond. And it's just like a very small segment of you
walking through the store you now manage.
Yeah.
And you can up.
And you're actually looking for a person that you can hand another ring to.
Ooh,
so that's basically,
I like that. I like cutting to the store you now manage, and you've got your different staff, and you sort of through conversation reveal that you've got your own candidate for management. You just go up to them and just like wave the ring in their face, just like your manager did to you.
Cut to black. And then the other one is all about taking down the company. But the problem is, like, and I think this is where it sort of comes down to, is that Beyond was actually kind of holding the Cthulhu / Lovecraftian aliens back.
Yeah.
And by bringing down the company, they're now free to just run havoc across the entire planet.
Yeah. Yeah. The company was doing it for profit because that's what companies do, but also it was actually holding it at bay by keeping it sated.
Locked into a extra dimensional plane. Now that they've broken down those extra dimensional planes, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, I do like just the final scene as you think you've won, you've brought down the company, and you're doing like the final walk through the store, but this time it's empty and there's no stock left, and you're walking towards the door that says Beyond, and it just like slams open and the tentacles start coming out, just like blast into your face, and then again cut to black.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, cool. That was good. Trevor, give me 3 words. What do you got?
Shovels worth adults.
Shovels worth adults.
Yes.
Okay. This is a new social media platform about digging holes. You monetize hole digging, live streamed hole digging, for a variety of purposes. Graves, both shallow and deep, just like sand pits, swimming pools. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay. So I saw like shovels, and I immediately started thinking of Gravediggers and that sort of stuff because.
Wait, I think yes, it's British Gravediggers. It's upper
class Gravediggers.
It has to be up. Yeah, it has to be these British upper class because it's Shovelsworth. That's the name.
Yeah, I'm thinking because of in this world, like the different sort of tiers of worthiness as such, has different classes of Gravediggers. So the upper echelon, only get buried by these
by the Shovelsworth clan.
By the Shovelsworth clan, and then it sort of goes down into like the commoners that get something different. There's a level above the Shovelsworth clan that is effectively royalty because they bury the royals. That's all they do.
Okay, so this is kind of about the organization,
the classist society within Gravediggers.
Yeah, the underbelly of the Gravedigger society, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this you come in as a green lower class gravedigger and you're working your way up, or is it a fall from grace situation where you're the only Shovelsworth who's been like kicked out of that sort of tier of service and having to work with the filthy trowel smiths?
I'm just wondering, is this like an undercover boss sort of situation where you've basically been sort of sent down to work in the trenches, so that you know your place.
So it's not quite undercover boss; it's more of like a punishment of some
sort. It's more of a Rumspringer sort of thing.
Right.
Of
it's like
you're sent down to work.
Yeah, you have to do
know
like
your place by working.
Yeah, and it's just this totally gross privileged thing of yeah.
But it all kind of gets turned on its head when it turns into basically The Walking Dead.
Okay, so this is how these clans of gravediggers deal with a zombie uprising. That makes sense. They would be the first line of defense, wouldn't they?
Oh, definitely. You're armed with a shovel and a trowel.
Yeah.
So shovel for those extra length sort of hits.
I think
but then trowel for that up close and deadly sort of close quarters combat.
So is this a third person action then?
Oh yeah.
Like Dead Rising style sort of thing. I love, or actually maybe a more apt comparison like The Witcher, and you've got the shovel and the trowel on your back, like you two that you can switch between.
Yep.
Okay, I love that. So, all right, I like this idea that you've spent the last month with the trowel smiths, digging in the trenches of grave digging for the commoners.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that you're actually a Shovelsworth, but then the zombie uprising happens, and you don't start off with your shovel. You just got your trowel or trowels, maybe.
I'm imagining that your whole first, not necessarily act, but your first sort of main mission is to get back to the locker room sort of thing. Which
get back to Spade Manor.
And basically, when you kick open the door, you can sort of open up the locker or whatever and just pick out like this beautiful shovel
you've got the special like silver filigreed shovel that's been passed down to you by your father and his mother before him, and the prime Shovelsworth of their time. It's your like your prime weapon.
So I'm kind of seeing this as not necessarily Dead Rising, but probably more, was it Dead Island? That.
Oh yeah. Like the precursor to Dying Light.
Yeah. Hang on, just having a look. Yeah, Dead Island. Is what I'm thinking about. It was more of a melee based sort of thing.
Yes. I think less of the swarms from Dead Rising. More of the kind of one-on-one combat where each zombie is particularly dangerous, depending on the circumstances you find yourself in. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm thinking you've got those kind of things that happen in Dead Rising where you've got the different groups around that you can sort of either save or let them sort of get turned into zombies themselves. So basically the people that you've been working with, you can save them and they become sort of like your team that, help other survivors and all this sort of stuff.
I do. Yeah, I do like the idea that that there is a bit of, what do you call it? Like commanding of troops a bit. Like if you save a group of trowel smiths, like they're not that powerful, but they come in groups and they can help you. Like,
they only come in groups because to dig 6 feet with a trowel is
they have to work in
lot
teams.
Of fucking work.
But then if you come across like a fellow Shovelsworth, they're essentially like a knight. They've got their own powerful shovel and they can take down a lot more zombies on their own.
So what caused the zombie outbreak?
Bad tea.
Bad tea.
Bad tea leaves.
Okay, I like that.
Something in the tea leaves.
there's something about bad tea leaves that just sort of, I think everyone can really relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone in Britain.
Yeah.
Where we're sitting.
And somewhat Australia, like.
Yeah. Bad tea bags. It's just bad tea bags. And actually no, it is bad tea leaf. Because I'm just thinking I'm thinking how this plays into the class factor because, like, the working class, the Trousmiths use tea bags.
Yes.
Whereas the Shovelsworth, they have their tea leaves that are fresh, fresh dried
they've
for
got
them,
the full on,
strain them.
tea bag, the teapot, and they're
so.
Okay, so I'm now picturing that your first thing is get your shovel, but at Spadesworth Manor or Shovelsworth Manor,
it's Spade Manor, but that's where
Spade Manor,
that's where the Shovelsworth lives.
Yeah. Okay, so at Spade Manor, you've actually got. When you get there, there's like a whole heap of zombies sort of trying to break in. And I think this comes down to, even though it's all tea-based, there's something in the manor that like the zombies are actually being attracted to. And so it comes down to that, like the reason why shovels and trowels are so effective against these zombies is because there's like a ancient artifact that sort of has been held in the Shovelsworth line for years.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, and I think that comes down to like the whole reason that this family are gravediggers. Like, and in ancient times, it was their family who protected against the undead. But it's been centuries since
I'm kind of thinking that it's kind of like you find out that the one of the Knights Templar used a shovel as their main weapon, and then when they moved back to England, they built their whole thing around the shovel.
Yeah, that's where the name came from, and
that was their weapon of choice.
Yeah,
but effectively, like it's all coming back to Holy Crusades and all this sort of stuff, and it's all about the
So did someone going down. Is this artifact like a teapot of sorts, and someone brewed the tea in it, and that's like where it started?
It could be. I like the idea of having collectibles around the place, and it's all part of like one tea set.
Right.
So it's like cups and saucers and like silverware and all this sort of stuff, and it's like this, somewhat tarnished tea set that you're finding around everywhere, and it's sort of like all the zombies are sort of, they're drawn to it, and they're sort of collecting it. So there is a reason for collecting it. To get the best ending, you need to collect all the tea set, bring it all back together.
Yeah. And
that actually allows you to cure the zombiness.
Yeah, I like that. So, because I'm picturing this as a bit of an open world, where you have options.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to go get your shovel first, and you just gate them in some way for that. Although maybe you can let them go off without completing that mission, and it's just really challenging because they have to use the trowels.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild style. You basically let them go anywhere, but if they follow the main path, then they'll get stronger and stronger and stronger, and have like an easier time at the end. Yeah,
for sure. But then, you've got these different parts of the tea set that are scattered around that you can take in different order if you like, and choose your path through. For sure.
There's just something about how absurd this whole idea is, like with, tea and shovels and all bringing it together, and
class
it's
war.
It's a class war.
No, I love it. I think the whole caste system of Gravediggers is fun to play with. Yeah, that's really cool. All right, but let's move on from that world.
Ben, what 3 words?
Into the world of.
Into the world of.
No, I'm saying that we're moving into the world of, and then
You're clicking. Okay.
Clicking.
I'm like, how is into the world of Like,
yes, we are moving on into the world of the 3 words: Holly's growth, gem-like.
Okay, Holly's gem-like growth, basically.
Holly.
Sorry, yeah. Holly's gem-like growth.
So it could be someone called Holly, or it could be the plant Holly, like Christmassy, spiky.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like this idea of, your character wakes up one day and on their little finger, like their little finger's basically crystallizing. And it's sort of like, it's a gem-like growth because it's sort of like, it's a sort of almost emeraldy sort of crystalline pattern that is just growing over time. And it's kind of got that feeling of, Senua's sacrifice sort of thing where things are gradually growing and every time that you sort of get defeated, then it grows a little bit more sort of thing. So you can.
Okay. Yeah. I was liking the way that was heading. I was thinking that could be good in VR because then you can really look at your hand over time and notice the changes.
I'm just imagining you closing your fist and it's like, oh, like that little finger that's crystalline growth isn't actually closing. And then as you go a little bit further and it's like...
I do like that actually in VR of like what would usually move your entire hand. Like, the crystalline bits stop moving.
Yeah. As it's sort of growing across the hand. And then, you can only use the hand for so much at that point. Like, because... you can only close then, the pointer finger and the thumb and as it grows to the whole hand. But the thing is you get more power out of it because you can like slap people around for more damage.
Yeah. So what is this game? Is it combat based? Is it puzzle based? Is it both? I do like the idea of obviously the power of that hand growing in some way at the same time as it, the use of it as an actual, hand with opposable thumbs and such. I also like the idea of it being your dominant hand. So you end up having to do the majority of the actions with the less dominant hand. Interesting. I do like that idea that, because I'm picturing at the beginning, you can use things like a bow and arrow or, two-handed weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But once you essentially reach a certain point, it's like, oh, you can't use those anymore. But now you can just smack people with your crystallized hand.
Yeah.
And it will do a ton of damage. Or like magic damage or whatever, like it blasts them or something.
So the question is, why is it happening to you?
You had sex out of marriage. It's a very conservative.
What I was actually thinking is that you're actually, like, you weren't born on Earth. You're actually from another planet. And this is like your metamorphosis.
I think it's more likely you just masturbated too much. And you know how they say, like, you get hairy palms? They got it slightly wrong.
You get crystalline palms.
You get crystalline palms. You did say it was,
but it goes through the digits first, so they're trying to stop it. But if you really try, Yeah,
well, part of the game is taking masturbation breaks, but every time it happens, the crystal grows. But it's a mandatory part of the game for it to continue. No, okay, let's go back to the metamorphosis idea, rather than that filthy tangent.
Ben's the one that said it. I didn't.
Well, so what sort of world are we setting this in?
1950s America.
Yeah, where bow and arrows were very common. Just big two-handed weapon spears everywhere. No, I think
1850s America then.
Specifically America.
When I think bow and arrows, I think America. I don't think Australia.
I was going more generic fantasy-ish, I guess. But
okay. No, we can make it fantasy. I do like the idea of bringing science fiction into it as well.
Yeah, well, I think then we might just have to shift some of the weaponry and stuff and how that plays a part. Because I'm fine with it being the generic fantasy is the standard way to go, probably, and a bit played out. So I'm definitely into switching that up.
Science fantasy. Oh my god!
Science fantasy.
It's an untapped genre.
Yeah, look, the main thing about fantasy was just that thing of how your weapon usage would change over time based on the fact that you only had one hand.
Okay, yep.
But maybe it does just come down to you can't, like, you can only use pistols after a certain point because then you have to use them in your offhand, or you can just, like, you can only equip one thing at a time then, right? Like, you can't dual wield anymore.
But I think what comes with that is obviously more power when you realize that you can actually use this as a weapon now. Like,
well, yeah, I think now you can, like, maybe block bullets with it and stuff. Like, you can use it as a shield. You can use it as as like a blunt object, except it has amazing, it does a ton of force. It end up smashing through doors with it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason for it, you think you were placed there as a sleeper agent or something?
Yeah.
And this is
I think it's a sleeper agent does kind of work, and basically you haven't had all your powers fully unlocked, sort of thing. I think when you were sent to Earth, you were supposed to be with, like, another operative that was here, but they may have got hurt or something like that, and you ended up with another family, and they didn't sort of get you prepared for what you needed to do. And
I like that. So I was just loving the idea that, and we may need to bring something in earlier than this, depending on how the growth proceeds. But, like, once the crystal structures reach all the way up your shoulder and start essentially getting to your spine or your brain, that's when you start getting memories back of your part, or of either your history or your culture, or, like, why you're there. And, because I'm just picturing, and that's going to be tricky. Obviously, in VR, you can get a bit of that, but we'll need mirrors around to make sure you can, like, see how far the growth has progressed at different times. But yeah, I think once it reaches...
I like the idea of it being sort of like every time that you sort of see the mirror, it's progressed a lot further than what you would have thought. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And so you don't know what's going to happen, but then yes, when you get to a point and you look in the mirror, and that triggers essentially like a moment where it grows even more and, like, engulfs the side of your head, and I don't know, you get a flashback or something that you play through,
but you start realizing that, the hands are actually starting to move a little bit more and all this sort of stuff as joints are sort of forming. Maybe. So you are actually kind of becoming like this crystalline entity sort of thing.
Yeah, because I was then thinking that, like, the last part of the game is once you've literally just turned entirely into this crystal creature, and you're just, like, rampaging then, like,
mowing through enemies.
Like bullets bounce
tomorrow.
Off you can just pick people up and throw them. Like, it's essentially like the end of Half-Life 2 when you've got the upgraded gravity gun, and all of a sudden you can just, like, fucking throw shit around. But yeah, it's just like,
as long as it's not like my pet peeve in all the Force Unleashed games, which I've talked about numerous times before, and where you get more powerful, but so do the enemies. Like, no, you want to feel like a god. Like, you can, like, in Force Unleashed, you can grab a planet and pull it down to Earth, but for some reason, like,
a stormtrooper
all of a sudden gets a shield and you can't use it anymore. Like, what's the point of getting powers if you can't use them continuously?
No, I think in this, it's much more just around the techniques. Obviously at the beginning, you're mostly a fleshy human, so it's about cover fire, but you can use, multiple weapons at once. Once it progresses, you can only use a weapon in your offhand, but now you've got, like, this strong crystal arm that, maybe it can even generate a shield or something, or it can, you've got some actual powers related to it perhaps. And then, like, by the end, you don't even need to bother with weapons because you're just running through this area, throwing people around left and right.
I'm just imagining, you get to the end of the game and you actually come up across another crystalline entity that sort of goes, "Oh my god, I didn't realize there was another one of us here. Quick, come with me and we can rule this world together," sort of thing. And you realize that, the reason why everyone was attacking you was because of this person that's in front of you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, I think maybe they were triggered at the same time. like this is the other person perhaps that was, you were separated from them. You were supposed to do this together, but then you find them at the end and they've also, maybe you were drawn to a specific place, or there's some plot reason why you've both ended up in the same place, but it's essentially your like life partner. And yes, you're there to take over the planet basically together.
Yeah. It's kind of like that, the Red Krypton stuff that they put out, where Superman's like
a dictator essentially.
Yeah, and ends up in Russia and like has a totally different look on life, and how crazy that would be.
All right.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. What 3 words? Wakes, train, newly.
Wakes?
WAKES.
Okay. I feel like this is a story of you on the way to a wake, like to a funeral on a train.
Yeah. And is it like a new train line sort of thing? Like it's a monorail that's just been put in or something like that.
Or
you're trying
like
out for the first time.
Yeah, like some new type of high-speed train or something, or, usually you'd fly, but there's this new train system. So, and it's deemed, it's this luxury train line, like they're trying to harken back to the old days of train travel, but it's, traveling across the entire country, or maybe it's like under the ocean or something. Like I don't know, it's like intercontinental.
What I like about that is you can sort of have, that sort of Murder on the Orient Express sort of feel, of basically there's a whole heap of family members on board this train. And it's basically, it's almost as if, maybe the person who died was your great grandfather, and he was the, he was the guy that designed the train. So all the family is invited on, and it's now like, it's maiden voyage.
The only misgiving I have about that is it's very similar to the game we did last week with the family tree and the like grandmother who was dying.
Okay. Yep. I'd forgotten all about that because I hadn't actually listened to this week's episode.
So I think maybe instead of it all being your family on the train, I think it is strangers. I think it's more of a straightforward mystery. I think you're going to a wake, but that's almost just a circumstance of why you're there, right? Of why you're on the train. And then there is a murder on the train that you are solving.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's sort of an ironic thing. It's like, oh, I'm on my way to a wake, and then someone dies on the train. It's like, great.
Ooh, I do like the idea that we're talking, as you were saying, intercontinental. I'm now picturing that the murder happens while you're going under the Atlantic Ocean between, England and America or whatever, whichever way you're going.
Yeah.
And the idea of you're literally alone because you're at the bottom of the ocean as it's traveling across.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. I think it's like, I don't know, how long would that take? It's still not as fast as a plane. So I don't know, maybe it's like a 36-hour trip or something.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good.
If that's fast or slow for a train traveling that far. I mean, I'm sure it's fairly fast, but so yeah, you've got this time limit, but no one can leave. No one can.
No one can. You know that the murderer is aboard the train with you.
It gives you that locked room sort of situation. It gives you that sense of the suspect is, or the suspects are all here and one of them is the murderer.
Yes. It's Among Us on a train.
We did that a few months ago too.
Yeah, I know.
So I think this is less.
It also had a lot of ghosts.
Yeah, that one had ghosts.
This is a single player game.
Yeah, I think this is a single player game, and it's more of an investigative sort of story based sort of thing.
Ooh, I'm just wondering whether like your character sort of wakes up after hearing someone scream, but you find your door locked, so you got to sort of solve a puzzle to actually get out of your door. Basically, someone didn't want you being being out of your room.
Let's talk about the character. Like, why are they solving the mystery? Are they some sort of investigator, like a detective or something themselves, or are they just
I like
an intuitive
sort of like a true crime blogger sort of thing. Like,
yes.
There's just something about like the self-importance
podcast host.
Exactly. Like the self-importance of this character who thinks, oh, I was made for this. and like, the entitlement that they just think.
I love that idea. And I love the idea that there's that, but there's like an actual investigator on board. And so you're just constantly getting in their way and like undermining
and interrupting and saying something, and then he contradicts everything that you say straight away. Like,
yes. I think that's actually challenging to like. That would work really. You can imagine how that would work if you were the investigator, and that was just like one of the quirky characters on the train. Yep. But I do actually like the challenge of having you be that terrible quirky character.
Yeah.
It's a bit more of a anti-hero underdog, sort of like a Roger Wilco style stumbling through.
Because I'm picturing that what you can actually do on this train is like, you sit down with someone and like interview them for the podcast sort of thing.
For the podcast, yes. That's perfect. Actually, I love that. Yeah, that gives a great framing device for why you're talking to all these people, and also why the inspector really doesn't want to talk to you because, like, he's like, oh, I want to actually investigate. You just keep getting in their face. And you're like, oh my god, this is going to be the best episode ever.
I'm picturing the recording gear, like you've got like the stuff set up in your cabin on the train, but then you've also got like the portable recorder that you sort of take out, but that's only got limited batteries, so that you've only got limited space, so you can only have so many conversations with people before you have to go back and change batteries and
just start on your edit. There's a whole editing mini game, cutting out ums and pauses.
It wouldn't be fun for us, but maybe other people might enjoy doing that.
We'd be good at it, though.
I mean, we'd be running at 2 times speed.
So, who done it?
The investigator of all people.
Nah, that's too obvious. Maybe the train did it. It's like a smart train. It has to have like a certain level of intelligence to navigate
the rogue AI did it.
Yeah. No, I don't think we even need to. It was
we don't need to say who
Maggie
it was,
Simpson.
But the baby.
Yeah, we're not actually writing the plot here.
No, what we're talking about is more the characters and the crazy hijinks that can happen on the thing. Who actually works out the story? Does the crazy podcast host, you actually end up breaking the story wide open?
I think so. I think I kind of like the idea that that as the character, you don't realize that you are solving it, but as the player guiding the character, you have actually got enough information then that you can solve it. But like the way it plays out is essentially that the character stumbles onto it without realizing that they actually got all the information. I don't know why,
but my brain has just gone to the Pauly Shore movie Jury Duty, in which he was the only one who sort of saw that the guy, who was being accused of doing the murder or whatever, didn't actually do it, but everyone just accused him of going against it because he just wanted more money for jury duty and all this sort of stuff. And it turns out that he was actually right in this case. But I'm kind of getting it that, it's this kind of silly character who the investigator sort of goes down that red herring trap of, yep, okay, it was definitely this person, when in reality it was actually, so much more convoluted than what ever could have happened before.
Yeah. I like that. I do. I'm not sure how tricky it would be to write, but I do just love the idea that as the player, you're doing things for the right reasons. Like through the interviews you've found some evidence where you're like, no, it definitely can't be the person that the investigator is accusing. But like the only way you can do that is the character is against it for a completely different reason. Like they've got the hots for them or something. Like, I just love that interesting duality of giving the player a reason to do something and giving the character a completely different reason for doing the same thing. That's just that is in character. With them. That'd be a really fun writing challenge for someone else.
But yeah, exactly. we're never going to make these games. If you haven't got that now, after
I'd love
221 episodes,
we're not in a place to do so. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Ben, what 3 words?
All right. Sweetens wasps assignments. So I immediately go to like a bees v wasps sort of situation.
Yeah, I'm thinking in this world, which one has the sweeter honey?
Well, how do the wasps get the honey?
It turns out that,
that in this world, wasps make honey.
Exactly.
Or do
they've got to feed something to their young. Just so happens that this is blood honey.
Or wasps deal in artificial sweetness, whereas bees have, they use their fucking saliva or whatever to make natural honey or whatever they do.
Let's not talk about that. I just realized how gross honey is, and I'm like, no, don't think about that.
All right, we don't have to go into the biological details of it, but I do like the idea of a world around honey with wasps versus bees in some way. Assignments makes me think that there's actually some organization that you're part of, or is this corporate espionage where you're...
Yeah, I like the idea of corporate espionage. In this world, it's basically there's spies that are known as honeys and there's spies that are known as wasps. And it's sort of I'm picturing that it's basically you got the good guys versus the bad guys, So
you're saying these aren't actual insects?
No.
Oh.
No, it's just
it's just the world of honey production.
They both happen to call their place of operations the H.I.V.E, but it's just that they're set up slightly differently.
One of them in a hexagonal, set of hexagonal.
Well, they both end up doing that. I don't know whether you've ever seen those wasp H.I.V.E videos where people go in and dismantle the hives and all this sort of stuff. It's all still honeycomb-esque. It's just true, there's no honey in there. It's all bloody. The combs are so disgusting in wasps.
That's gross.
Yeah.
I do kind of like the comedic aspect of these two competing companies around very similar insects. So yes, they both call their home their home office the hive, and they use hexagons as their motif. And
I think the only real difference is, and you can sort of choose which one you're going to work for at the start, and then the only real difference is that each one thinks of the other one as the evil ones, but really they're just in this world of corporate espionage. It's sort of you're almost going up against them all the time, trying to get the information for your client.
Is this do all these operations occur at the bar that's midway between these two offices? I kind of like the idea that it all plays out in these after work or lunchtime, boozy lunch breaks.
I like the idea that you're working behind the counter at some of these places and having to prepare food and drinks and all this sort of stuff.
And it's working for one of them.
No, I'm saying that, as part of your undercover thing is okay, now provide food for this person. So you're sort of doing cooking mama sort of things, but when you come up against the person that you need to hand, the secret documents, then you got to sort of sneak underneath the pokeball or whatever you've got there, the coaster that, has all the secret information on it.
Yeah, okay, I can see that working. Is that the whole game then? Are you just undercover at this place and it's all playing out in front of you and you're passing things back and forth and doing different things to help your side.
Yeah, I think what you also have to deal with is the fact that there is always going to be an operative from the other side somewhere in the area trying to pass off information to someone else.
So it could be like the delivery guy who comes and drops off your ingredients, or the mail
It could be Cheryl
person
who's working right beside you, and she did seem to slip something underneath another one of the bowls that they handed off to another person.
And you find out it was just her phone number because she thought it was hot.
And then it turns out that you actually slipped the paper to the other operative because they...
the operative comes back and they're like, why did you give me a piece of paper with Cheryl's number on it? And you're like, oh, shit. That means that hot guy got the secret documents. Like the encryption key. No, that's fun. And I feel like, and so you're not just stuck in the bar or restaurant the whole time. Maybe you do like lunch deliveries or something. So you've got moments where you go to each office and you've got like a sandwich card or something, or like a coffee card or something. And so that gives you the opportunity. It's like, oh, you need to look out for, Vicky Smith, because she's the one who needs to receive these documents.
But also, don't forget that Cheryl has made all these sandwiches for all these people, and she's given you a note that says Sam wanted ham on wheat. Pam wanted ham on rye. Make sure that you remember the difference.
Yeah, I like that. And you have to figure out, is this just Cheryl being a really good, host here, or is this a secret message?
Yeah.
That's fun. I really love the idea. Are both of these companies making honey then?
I think they make money off of these secrets being transferred back to you and all that sort of stuff. It's all about, they call it honey.
Oh, okay.
But
I kind of like the idea that like one of these companies call themselves bees and one call themselves wasps, and the bees are always like, but you make honey too. Like, why are you calling yourself wasps? It's so stupid.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. What 3 words? Mutual moon bump.
Mutual moon bump. That sounds like, I'm just picturing these moons just like boop, little kiss, little Eskimo kiss.
Okay, so now I'm imagining, in the distant future when there's like this big asteroid coming to hit Earth, and the moon just happens to sort of get in the way and just sort of bump this thing out, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, it's so amazing that, it just so happened that the moon just got into the perfect position to sort of deflect." But then there's like a secret sort of thing going on in the background that you find out that the moon is here as our protector sort of thing.
The whole time the moon's been sentient. The man in the moon is a real thing. Okay. How does that play out then? Do you start communicating with the moon somehow as someone on Earth?
I think what ends up happening is that scientists pretty much say that something weird happened with the moon at this time, because it moved extremely quickly from its usual orbit and made its way up. And basically they were looking, the only way they could actually tell is they were looking at the tides, and the tides kind of went fucked up during this time.
I feel like there's enough telemetry out there that we would notice if the moon sped up. So I'm picturing this situation where I feel like you play a child.
Yeah.
And the prologue essentially is like, it's almost like the start of a disaster movie, because this asteroid's coming. It's, it's the world ender. It's going to, get us all. And then, yes, like it happens that the moon's orbit shifts and the moon blocks this asteroid.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, oh, like this weird anomaly, but thank goodness, like we're all safe. And then you're like clock radio starts talking to you or something. Like, basically you start getting these transmissions and it turns out it's literally from the moon. Yeah. And whether the fact that this asteroid hit it has meant that it can now communicate in some way, or whether it's just chosen to after this, after all this time, and why I don't know, but it almost just becomes this like whimsical kind of interesting little story between these characters.
Yeah. No, I'm almost wondering whether this character was actually adopted. And they're somewhat related to the man in the moon. And that the reason why you're getting contacted is this is your father.
I just had images of like Tim Allen in the Santa Claus becoming Santa, this child just like slowly growing more moon-like. They start getting acne. It's like, oh, these acne really looks like craters on their face, and like all this like dust keeps coming off them, and they're like growing rounder.
Just the head.
Yeah, it's eventually going to pop off and become the next moon.
The actual moon.
Yeah. You're growing up to be the successor to the moon, the protector of Earth. Or at least to go up and join your father.
Yeah. I think this is one of those sort of nice cases of like the family that you're living with are amazing and all this sort of stuff, and they've actually known the entire time that your father.
They sit down and have a talk with you, or you reveal something about it. It's like, Mum and Dad, I think the moon's talking to me, and they're just like, oh, and we knew this day would come.
So your father.
It's like the opposite of in Avatar when like my girlfriend became the moon. It's like, no, your father is the
moon. There's just something about having that sort of relationship and sort of like changing your mind as to, oh my God, now I'm finding out that my father is literally watching over me and protecting us.
Oh yeah, I think you could make it a quite sort of sweet story. I think maybe, how old do you think the kid is? Like 11 or something? Like a preteen, but not like young child.
I'm definitely not seeing a 3 or 4 year old sort of going, my dad's the moon. But yeah, maybe it starts off at 11 and then you have the discussion at around 15, 16. And then, you study to become an astronaut to travel to the moon. Okay. And you sort of end up there, at around 21, 22, and that's when you meet your dad, and, he sort of says... You meet
his dad by landing on him.
Landing on the moon, it turns out that he's working some observation-y sort of thing. Like, it's...
Oh, no, I'm still under the impression that your father is literally a planetoid.
Like Ego, the living planet.
Yeah. It's like this sentient moon.
You think that, and then you hear this, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, we could play a fake out with that. It could go both ways. No, I like it. That's a fun little story that, like, yes, you're getting these messages as you grow up. And it's playing through these different areas, these different sections of this kid's life.
Yeah, but then it turns out that, your dad couldn't afford to look after you. He's always loved you, and that's why he's always protected you and all this sort of stuff. And when this happened, he reached out just in the off chance.
He's literally human, or?
Yeah, I think so.
So is the moon like some government conspiracy? It's actually like a giant space station that's...
Or no, this is just like his family's like, birthright was... They're actually descended from the moon people.
Okay. I feel like this is a weird mix of
Homo Moonius.
Of surrealist fantasy or just sci-fi or just anything else. But you know what? I like it. That's fine.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, finish the episode.
3, 2, 1, finish. Yeah, I think we will finish up the episode there. That was fun, as usual. If you want to find all of our previous episodes, you can go onto this wonderful thing called the internet. Go to podchaser.com/bitstorm and go have a browse. Start wherever you like. Leave some reviews.
It's not serialized that much.
No, we
occasionally go back to ideas, but most of the time it's not serialized.
Jump in, find a guest you like, perhaps. Yeah, have fun.
And finally, we'd like to thank Kuridas for the use of the song Mount Defiance of the album Containment Failure.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And how dare you talk to me, a shovel's worth, you trial smith. Get out of here.